Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm excited, really excited to bring you this video because going to Costa Blanca would not be complete without a Coll de Rates video of its own. I hope you enjoy this extraordinary view that you have. You are attached to my saddle via the Insta360. And speaking of, we have a very interesting video today. And sorry it's taken me a while to get to it. We've been moving house, our first new home, getting internet sorted, all the excuses I know, but we're finally here. But this video specifically, this effort today, was me versus the climb and Mark. Now Mark, who's sat on my wheel, and through the magic of the 360 camera, you can see him, we set out to essentially see how long Mark could hold on to my wheel for. And the idea was, or rather Mark's idea was, that he's going to be in Calpe for this period of time. And over, say, 4 weeks, he's going to slowly build up a portfolio of racing against what he called sub-bosses. And the final boss would be Mathieu van der Poel. Now, at the time of recording, I was, the first sub-boss, if you will. So, former British hill climb champion is the first sub-boss. I felt like we're going into the deep end here, Mark. But, I'm gonna give it my best view and just hang on. And he didn't cheat. He didn't hang on to the pole, the camera pole. He did it fairly and squarely, even got his camera out himself to film from behind on certain sections. So he was dedicated to the cause. So we were having a little bit of fun. Obviously, I was carrying half a ton's worth of camera equipment. But we thought, this is my last day in the Costa Blanca area. We'll have a bit of fun and we will send it up the Coll de Rates. So, as you can see, it's a beautiful day. A really, really beautiful day. And it was probably around 10:30, 11 in the morning. So it wasn't too busy yet. Peak time around here for, spotting professional cyclists, but also seeing many groups and many cyclists. And I'll talk about the popularity of this area in a minute. But the peak times are probably around 12 till about 2. And I found that information out by visiting the cafes, which are at the foot of this climb. There's two. There's Blanca Bikes and there's Musette. And both of which are cycling hotspots, really, for finding, ex-professionals, current professionals, Tour de France winners, you name it. And we actually saw Demi Vollering one day, and we saw Johan Mazeu the next day. It's pretty surreal, I will tell you. But since heading out there, and obviously since coming home, I've been home now for maybe 2 weeks. People have been saying, how does it compare to Mallorca? And I'll get to that in a second. But this climb has become extremely popular. I don't think I need to tell you that. It's been popular for a long time. Of course, the recent KOM bashing that it took from the UAE Team Emirates, Tadej Pogačar, etc., really kind of cemented the idea that, it was kind of, I guess, not taken seriously, but they were all having a bit of fun and games on this climb and setting, the fastest time they could. And I'm sure some of you have seen the video footage of, the team or the train of riders going up this climb as fast as they possibly can. And I think the KOM time is something around 12 minutes, give or take. And my time today was just over 15 minutes. And, there's a number of reasons why, excuses. This is like January, this is winter weight, this is deep section wheels, this is training tires, this is etc. So but I want to come back. Definitely, and I know I can go faster than 15 minutes, But today was seeing how long Mark could hold on for. Now, Mark actually didn't really know how long he'd be able to hold on for. He'd done some watts per kilo calculations and things, but this climb is quite forgiving. It's not really steep anywhere. It's kind of quite shallow, and we're moving at a steady 25 plus kilometers per hour here. So he's kind of able to get a small draft, if you will, but he is probably 20 kilograms heavier than myself. I'm weighing about 63 kilograms, and so Mark is significantly pushing himself now to the limit to hang on to the back wheel. And I think the camera angle is doing a lovely job of showing that pain. So Mark's going to bury himself until the bitter end, and I'm essentially just pacing myself to finish the climb as fast as possible. And I give him a bit of encouragement there, give him the universal hand sign of squeezing the throttle, because I think he shouted that he was like sort of just on the limit there. But we're coming up for halfway through the climb, so he's doing a really good job. And the top section today actually had a tailwind, and that obviously helped me massively. And we were talking about it at the top, actually, how as Mark faces off with these sub bosses, like, would it be faster, like, if he turned himself inside out for as long as possible and then blew up? But if he blows up really hard, like, will he lose more time? And then overall, will he be slower than if he, paced himself a little bit better? So it's kind of an interesting concept. And there he goes. He's finally let the elastic snap, and he's now going to try and pace himself to the top. Now, actually having Mark on my wheel kind of put me off a little bit. I'm always thinking about, I guess when I was racing and I was in a domestique role, you're always thinking about managing your efforts so that your team leader behind you is not going to, they're going to have the easiest ride through the hairpins and things like that. But when I'm on my own now, I can truly focus on myself. So I settle in, and my power meter is low on battery. So in a second, you're going to see it drop, and it's going to just freeze for a couple of minutes, but it will pick up towards the end, I assure you. But I was pretty happy with my effort overall. It was about 380 watts, I think, for 15 minutes, which it ain't like breaking any records, but it was around about what I thought I could do. So it's positive for January. Now, I was going to talk briefly about the question that I've been asked kind of almost every day by people with regards to Mallorca versus this area. And I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I don't think you're making a bad choice if you decide to go to Mallorca or if you decide to come here. It all depends on what you want or what you enjoy. But certainly, I've been to Mallorca 4 or 5 times now, and this is the first time I've been here. And I'd say there are some things that this area has the upper hand over Mallorca with. Some things are very similar, like, transfer time, for example. So if you're staying in Palencia on the other side of Mallorca, obviously you have to have a bit of a bus journey or car journey across the island. And it's the same here. If you fly to Alicante and you go across the country a little bit, or across the coastline rather, not across the country, then that's going to be, a 30 to 45 minute journey as well. But then you're really going into some very good area for cycling. So it's worth it. And what I would say is I rode maybe 700-800 kilometers while I was here for the week. And I did one day where I did about 210 kilometers. And I can honestly say, I don't think I've ridden anywhere where for 210 kilometers, and I was out for like 8 hours, I didn't once see a pothole. I didn't once have to sort of make it an emergency maneuver to avoid, a rock or something that was on the road. I think a lot of that is down to maybe the weather being a bit more stable here, obviously being mainland Spain. But in Mallorca, the last couple of years, I think the weather's been a bit unstable and hit and miss. You should definitely let me know in the comments down below help the engagement of the video. Your thoughts on, Mallorca versus this area. I've just gone past a rider there who I also think was on sort of like a PR type ride today up this climb. So it was great to cheer him on. We shared a couple of words at the top. But yeah, I think when I came to this area, I didn't know what to expect. But as you can see, like, it's got the views, it's got the popularity. I mean, you've only got to look at the number of cyclists that are coming down this hill now, and no doubt they're coming down it because they've climbed up the other side of this climb, which is also a beautiful climb, which I think is called Tarbena. And you can climb from that direction. A lot of the climbs are quite gradual, but if you've been watching any of the pro racing from this area, a lot of the climbs, or the climbs that they go out of their way to find, can be savage. They can be really, really steep. And for a long period too. Like, I found a 5 kilometer 12% climb. So there's definitely climbs around if you really want to challenge yourself. You can do a lot of climbing around here as well, and you don't have to travel that far away from where you're staying. So obviously we stayed in Benidorm on the outskirts with Hotel Helios. But even if you stay, further up the coastline, which is where many people stay, but to be honest, where I stayed, I was satisfied staying there. There was no problem staying there at all. But I do feel like there's more you can do without traveling as far. Like, you don't have to ride sort of, say in Mallorca, you ride on that coastal road, over towards Sacalobra. Sacalobra is a fantastic climb, don't get me wrong, but you do have to descend down into it and then come back out. And that in itself is like one ride, for a lot of people. That's a big day out. And, if you go down into Soyer and then around, that's also a big day out. So you can't really do a medium-sized loop that's hilly, really, in my opinion. Whereas here, you kind of can. So I think there's actually more to offer the everyday cyclist, if you will, here than out there in Mallorca. And like I said, the weather seems to be a bit more stable. It was about 15 to 20 degrees most of the time here. I mean, I'm wearing shorts, short sleeve, and obviously my legs are out. And I was wearing a merino base layer today. But you can see in the shade, it is going to be a little bit cooler. The cafes are great. The people are great. It's just, there's very little downside to it. So it's very similar, in many ways to Mallorca. But if you've never been, I think you'll be very impressed. And, like, I've heard lots of, second-hand experience of people that have ridden here, but obviously I'd never been here before myself. And I've not really... Sometimes I'm kind of guilty of, like, if I'm not used, if I've never been somewhere, I get a little bit type of, Mallorca's good, I'll just go there. Or like, this place is good, I'll just keep going there. And really, I don't know why I hadn't come here earlier, because it is just, it is cycling paradise. And I know Mallorca is as well. And, it was not made famous, but obviously the popularity definitely increased when the number of professional cyclists, teams going there increased. And now I guess it's a similar kind of thing going on here. But if you haven't been, I would put it on the list just to try it. If anything, you could come and set a time on this climb, which I guess is the equivalent of Sacalobra, but in this area. So there we go. I've given you the excuse to come. But here we go. We're just coming up the last two corners. There's the big sign on the left hand side, and we're gonna hit the final right-hander hairpin, I suppose. Coming up in a second. There are some cracking views off to the left. You can see the coastline, although you can't quite see it here, but yeah, you can pretty much see surrounding area. And this corner is a bit tricky to take. I didn't want to be on the other side of the road there, but I was coming in a little bit hot, but I also didn't want to shave off any speed either. I didn't want to be pulling the brakes. So I kind of got that angle all wrong. So it didn't really set me up for a fast finish per se, because the gradient, I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on that gradient down there at the bottom, but it has been fluctuating a little bit on these last couple of kilometers. It does go between sort of like 8, 9 and 5, so there is a little bit of a change, but you can pretty much empty the tank from that corner to the top. It's going to be like last minute or two. So there we go. Here's the summit, or you could extend it by turning right and going up the rough road all the way to the top. But there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe and check out that view in front of us. That is well worth it. I'll see you in the next one.